Imagine standing at the edge of a narrow mountain pass, so tight that only a handful of men can walk side by side. Before you, stretching beyond the horizon, is the largest army the ancient world has ever seen. Tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, war elephants, archers, so numerous that, according to legend, their arrows would blot out the sun. Behind you, 300 men, 300, and yet you do not run, you do not surrender. You plant your spear in the earth, lift your shield, and prepare to fight. This is not a myth. This is not a Hollywood invention. This is one of the most documented and consequential military engagements in all of human history. This is the Battle of Thermopylae, 480 BC, and what happened here would echo across 25 centuries and help shape the entire course of Western civilization. In the 6th century BC, the Persian Empire was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Founded by Cyrus the Great around 550 BC, it had grown to span 3 continents. Its territory stretched from modern-day Pakistan in the east all the way to Egypt in the south, and the edges of Greece in the west. It was an empire of staggering diversity. Dozens of peoples, languages, and religions existed under its roof. Greece at this time was not a unified nation. It was a collection of independent city-states, each with its own government, its own army, and its own fierce sense of identity. Some Greek city-states along the western coast of modern Turkey, a region called Ionia, had fallen under Persian control. Around 499 BC, these Ionian Greeks launched a rebellion against their Persian overlords. The Athenians sent ships and soldiers to support the revolt. The revolt was eventually crushed, but the Persian king, Darius the Great, did not forget that Athens had dared to defy him. In 490 BC, Darius sent a large Persian force across the Aegean Sea to punish Athens. The two armies met on the coastal plain near Marathon. What happened next shocked the world. The Athenians defeated the Persian army. The Persians retreated. Darius was humiliated. He began planning a massive second invasion to crush the Greeks once and for all. But Darius died before he could launch it. His son, Xerxes I, inherited the throne and the grudge. Xerxes was not a man who did things halfway. When he decided to invade Greece, he mobilized the full weight of the Persian Empire. Ancient sources describe armies of over 1 million men. Modern scholars believe the actual number was between 100,000 and 300,000. But even so, breathtaking in scale. Xerxes ordered 2 pontoon bridges constructed across the Hellespont, the narrow strait between Asia and Europe, so his army could march into Europe without needing ships. When a storm destroyed the first bridges, Xerxes reportedly ordered the sea itself to be whipped as punishment. Then he had his engineers build the bridges again. He also ordered a canal dug through a treacherous peninsula in northern Greece. This was a man who bent the natural world to his will. In 480 BC, the Persian army crossed into Europe. The force was enormous, perhaps the largest military expedition the ancient world had ever seen. The army moved south through northern Greece, and the Persian navy moved along the coast in parallel. Greece had to stop both, on land and at sea. Greece was about to face the fight of its life. Sparta, known in ancient times as Lacedaemon, was located in the southern Greek peninsula. Unlike Athens, Sparta was almost entirely organized around a single purpose: war. Spartan society was built on the back of an enslaved population called the Helots. They vastly outnumbered the Spartans. Some estimates suggest by as much as 7 to 1. This created a constant undercurrent of tension and fear. The Spartans needed to maintain an iron grip through sheer military superiority. Spartan boys entered the agoge, the state-run military training system, at the age of 7, taken from their families, placed in communal barracks. They were deliberately underfed to develop cunning and self-reliance. They were forced to go barefoot even in winter, to sleep on rough mats. The goal was to create a specific kind of soldier, one who felt no fear, no comfort, no individual ambition. A Spartan warrior existed not for himself, but for the man beside him. This training lasted over a decade. By the end, a Spartan warrior was something the ancient world had never quite seen before. The primary weapon of the Spartan warrior was the phalanx formation, a tight, interlocking wall of soldiers standing shield to shield. Each man's shield protected not just himself, but the man to his left. The front rows presented a wall of overlapping shields and extended spears, nearly impenetrable. They trained every single day, not as a hobby or a part-time duty, as a full-time profession. Sparta's entire economy existed to support these warriors. Spartan culture produced the most celebrated martial aphorisms in history. The word laconic, meaning brief and to the point, comes from the Greek name for Sparta, Laconia. When Persian messengers arrived demanding earth and water, symbols of submission, the Spartans reportedly threw them into a well. "There," they said, "you'll find plenty of earth and water at the bottom." When a Spartan mother sent her son off to war, the farewell was reportedly, "Come back with your shield, or on it. Return victorious, or return dead." When the Persians warned that their arrows would block out the sun, a warrior named Dionysus reportedly replied, "Good, then we will fight in the shade." The man who would lead the Spartan force at Thermopylae was King Leonidas I, likely in his 50s or 60s at the time, a veteran warrior of extensive experience. Leonidas understood, perhaps better than anyone, what the mission at Thermopylae truly was. He chose the 300 men who would accompany him with specific care, selecting only those who already had sons to carry on their family lines. He was not choosing survivors. He was choosing men he expected to die. Word spread through Sparta that the king himself was marching north with 300 men. Citizens lined the roads to watch them pass. Everyone understood what this mission truly meant. These were not ordinary soldiers sent on an ordinary mission. These were fathers, husbands, brothers, men who had been chosen precisely because their bloodlines were already secured. Sparta would go on without them. At the Hellenic League, the strategy was debated. Some wanted to fall back further south. Leonidas argued for Thermopylae. The narrow pass was the only place where discipline could defeat numbers. The combined force moved north: Spartans, Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, Arcadians, and others. Different cities, different dialects. One desperate purpose. When they arrived at Thermopylae, Leonidas studied the ground carefully. The geography confirmed everything. Here, and only here, their small force had a chance to hold. When news of Xerxes' approaching army reached Greece, many city-states simply surrendered, sending earth and water to Xerxes, hoping to be left in peace. But a core group of city-states refused. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and others formed the Hellenic League, a defensive alliance. They were outnumbered, but they were fighting for their freedom. The Greek navy, led primarily by Athens, would engage the Persian fleet at the Straits of Artemisium to the north. Meanwhile, a land force would hold a narrow pass to prevent the Persian army from advancing south. That pass was Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. The name Thermopylae means the Hot Gates in Greek, named for sulfurous hot springs nearby. At its narrowest, the pass was less than 15 meters wide. This geography was absolutely crucial. In such a confined space, the Persian army's overwhelming numerical advantage became almost irrelevant. They could not deploy their cavalry effectively. They could not encircle the Greeks. They had to come at them head-on, funneled into a narrow corridor where Greek discipline could hold. There was, however, one critical vulnerability. A mountain path, the Anopeia, wound through the hills above the pass and emerged behind the Greek position. Leonidas knew about the path. He stationed roughly 1,000 Phocian soldiers to guard it. It was the one variable he could not fully control. The total Greek force at Thermopylae numbered between 5,000 and 7,000 soldiers. In addition to the 300 Spartan Spartiates, there were Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, Locrians, and others. But the 300 Spartiates were its core, its heart, its pride, and in the days to come, they would become its legend. The Greeks repaired an old Phocian defensive wall that crossed the pass, establishing their main defensive position. Then they waited. Persian scouts reported back to Xerxes, a small force of Greeks, seemingly unconcerned, waiting at the mouth of the pass. Xerxes looked down at them from a golden throne set on the hillside. He reportedly waited 4 full days before ordering his forces to attack. He could not believe they would actually stand their ground. Scouts came back with reports of the Spartans, sitting calmly, combing their hair. To the Persians, this seemed bizarre, inexplicable. A Persian defector named Demaratus, a former Spartan king, tried to explain. These men have come to fight. This is their custom. When they are about to risk their lives, they adorn their heads. Xerxes reportedly laughed. He did not understand what he was facing. On the 5th day, he sent in the Medes and the Kissians, elite troops, with orders to capture the Greeks alive. What happened next was a catastrophe for the Persians. The Greeks in phalanx formation were virtually impossible to break in that confined space. Their longer spears gave them reach. Their shields were larger and heavier than the wicker shields of Persian infantry. Crucially, the Greeks also employed a feigned retreat. They would pretend to break and run, drawing the Persians forward, then turn and cut them down as their formations scattered. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers crashed against the Greek line and broke. The bodies piled up. The Medes withdrew. The Kissians withdrew. Xerxes, watching from his golden throne on the hillside, reportedly leaped to his feet 3 times in alarm during the battle. At last, Xerxes sent in his most feared unit, the Immortals, 10,000 of Persia's finest warriors, so called because their numbers were always kept at exactly 10,000. Even the Immortals were repulsed. The Greeks held. Day 1 ended. The pass still belonged to Leonidas. On the 2nd day, Xerxes tried again. Different units, different approaches. The Greeks fought in rotation, different contingents taking turns, allowing exhausted fighters to rest. Persian archers fired massive arrow volleys, but the Greek hoplites raised their shields and most arrows clattered harmlessly off bronze and wood. The sea on one side, the cliffs on the other, and in the narrow corridor between them, a wall of shields that would not break. By the end of the 2nd day, Xerxes was furious and baffled. No one in the Persian court had seriously believed this tiny force could hold, and yet, somehow, it had. Twice. But then, on the night of the 2nd day, everything changed. His name was Ephialtes. He was a local man, and he approached Xerxes with information the Persian king desperately needed. The location of the Anopia mountain path. Why did Ephialtes betray the Greek position? For reward, for survival. Whatever his reasons, the damage was done. Xerxes immediately dispatched the Immortals to follow Ephialtes up the mountain path and emerge behind the Greek position. They marched through the night. At dawn of the 3rd day, Leonidas received the news. The Phocians guarding the path had been startled by the Immortals and retreated. The pass behind the Greeks was now compromised. Leonidas held a council of war. His options were clear and brutal. Retreat now while the path was still open, or stay and die. Most of the Greek allied contingents chose retreat. They were not cowards. It was the rational military decision. The force had bought 2 days. There was still a war to fight. But Leonidas and the 300 Spartans did not leave. Neither did the Thespians, 700 of them. Their city lay directly in the path of the Persian advance, and they knew it would be destroyed regardless. The Thespians chose to die fighting rather than flee. These men are often forgotten in the popular retelling of Thermopylae, and that is a grave injustice. They deserve to be remembered. Why did Leonidas stay? There are several theories. One is tactical, maintaining a rear guard to buy the retreating allies time to escape. Another involves an oracle. Before the war, the oracle at Delphi had reportedly prophesied that either Sparta would be destroyed or a Spartan king must die. Leonidas may have understood from the beginning that this was a sacrifice. Whatever his reasons, Leonidas made his choice. He sent the others away. He stayed, and the 300 stayed with him. On the morning of the third day, rather than waiting in the defensive position, Leonidas led his remaining force forward into a wider section of the pass. They were no longer fighting to hold. They were fighting to kill. The battle that followed was unlike anything before. The Greeks charged into the Persian formations, attacking with a ferocity born of men who knew they were already dead. Persian commanders were killed. Herodotus records that 2 of Xerxes' own brothers died in the fighting. The losses on the Persian side during this final phase were massive. Leonidas himself was killed in the fighting. A desperate struggle erupted over his body. The Greeks and Persians fighting hand to hand for possession of the king's corpse. 4 times the Persians seized it. 4 times the Spartans drove them back. At last, the immortals arrived from the mountain path and encircled them. The Persian archers were brought forward. The remaining Greeks, having lost their spears, drawing swords, fighting with bare hands at the end, were annihilated. The pass was taken. The battle was over, but it had cost Xerxes dearly, and it had cost him something perhaps more valuable than soldiers: time. Even among the Persians, there was a strange quiet after the final battle. These Greeks had fought in a way that defied all expectation. Every man among the rear guard had died where he stood. Herodotus records that Xerxes was so unsettled by the losses that he attempted to hide the Persian dead before allowing his troops to tour the battlefield. He did not want his men to see how many had fallen. The news of Thermopylae traveled fast. Every Greek city received the same report. 300 Spartans and their allies had held the pass for 3 days and died fighting to the last man. The effect on Greek morale was extraordinary. Rather than breaking the will to resist, Thermopylae hardened it. The sacrifice had become a rallying cry. After the battle, Xerxes ordered Leonidas's body to be beheaded and crucified, a profound violation of Greek burial customs. This suggests Xerxes was not simply satisfied with victory, he was humiliated. Throughout the Greek world, the story of Thermopylae spread, and with it, not shame or surrender, but a burning, furious determination to resist. Persia continued its advance south. Athens was evacuated, its entire population escaping by sea, while Xerxes' army marched toward the city. Xerxes' army marched in and burned the city, including the Acropolis. But the sacrifice at Thermopylae had bought exactly what Leonidas intended: time. The Battle of Salamis came in September of 480 BC. The Greek fleet lured the massive Persian navy into narrow waters, where numbers counted for less than skill. The Persian fleet was devastated. Ship after ship was rammed, burned, or captured. The Greek strategy worked perfectly. Xerxes, watching from a hillside throne, much as he had watched Thermopylae, saw his navy destroyed. He retreated back to Persia, fearing a Greek counterattack. A Persian land force remained under a general named Mardonius. The following year, at the Battle of Plataea, that force was defeated by the Spartan-led Greek army. Persia's invasion of Greece was over. The largest military machine the ancient world had ever assembled had been turned back by a collection of small, quarrelsome city-states who refused to submit. Had Persia successfully conquered Greece, the history of Western civilization would be unrecognizable. Athenian democracy, the world's first experiment in government by the people, would have been extinguished. The philosophical tradition that gave us Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle would have been suppressed or destroyed. The scientific tradition, the theatrical tradition, all of it fragile. All of it nearly lost. None of these things were inevitable. All of them were fragile. And all of them survived, in part because 300 Spartan soldiers chose to die in a narrow mountain pass. It is important to note the full Greek force numbered in the thousands. The Thespians who died alongside the Spartans deserve equal recognition. 700 Thespians gave their lives too. Popular culture, including the 2006 film 300, depicts the Spartans as near supernatural warriors. The reality is both more ordinary and more extraordinary. The Spartans were disciplined and psychologically conditioned in ways that gave them a significant edge. But they were human beings, mortal, exhausted, suffering. Their power came from culture and training, not superhuman strength. The film also depicts Xerxes as a towering, pierced deity figure. The real Xerxes was a sophisticated monarch of an advanced civilization, not a monster. Ancient sources quote Persian army sizes in the millions. Modern historians applying logistical analysis have drastically reduced these estimates. But even at realistic numbers, what happened at Thermopylae remains extraordinary. A force of perhaps 7,000 men held off an army many times their size for 3 full days. The real miracle of Thermopylae was not the numbers, it was the choice. After the battle, the Greeks buried their dead at Thermopylae and erected monuments to honor the fallen. The most famous was a simple stone epitaph by the poet Simonides of Chios, perhaps the most celebrated war memorial inscription in all of history. Go, tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. 25 centuries have passed since those words were carved. Empires have risen and fallen, civilizations have come and gone, and yet, that inscription still resonates, because at its heart, the story of Thermopylae is not about military tactics or historical geopolitics. It is about a question that every human being must eventually face. What are you willing to die for? What is worth the ultimate price? The men who died at Thermopylae answered that question with their lives. They died for the idea that free people have the right to determine their own fate, that some things, freedom, identity, community, are worth more than survival. The Persian Empire would eventually collapse, conquered by Alexander the Great. But the Greek culture that Thermopylae helped preserve went on to shape Rome, and through Rome, the entire Western world. Democracy, philosophy, science, art, theater. The logical reasoning, the critical analysis, the love of knowledge for its own sake, all of it has roots in the Greek tradition that survived. The hot gates of Thermopylae are quiet now. The sulfurous springs still bubble up from the earth. The pass itself has changed. What was once a narrow corridor is now a broader plain. But the memory persists. And somewhere in that memory, 300 warriors still stand in the pass. Their shields are up. Their spears are leveled, and they are not moving. Molon Lab. Come and take them. Thank you for watching. If this video moved you, if it taught you something, if it made you think, please share it with someone who might feel the same.